Namo Tassa Bhagavato ArahatoSammaSambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato ArahatoSammaSambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato ArahatoSammaSambuddhassa. Buddham saranam gacchami, Dhammam saranam gacchami, Sangham saranam gacchami, Dutiyampi Buddham saranam gacchami, Dutiyampi Dhammam saranam gacchami, Dutiyampi Sangham saranam gacchami, Dutiyampi Buddham saranam gacchami, Dutiyampi Dhammam saranam gacchami, Dutiyampi Sangham saranam gacchami. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Sanghaya. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Sanghaya. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Sanghaya. I take refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Through the positive potential I create by practicing the 6 paramitas, may I soon attain enlightenment in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Through the positive potential I create by practicing the 6 paramitas, may I soon attain enlightenment in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Through the positive potential I create by practicing the 6 paramitas, may I soon attain enlightenment in order to benefit all sentient beings. May all sentient beings have happiness and its causes. May they be free from suffering and its causes. May they never be parted from their happiness beyond suffering. May they abide in equanimity, free of bias, attachment to the near, and aversion from the far. I shall cause this. Great compassionate Buddha, please inspire me to be able to do so. Reverently, I prostrate with my body, speech, and mind, and present clouds of every types of offerings, actual and mentally transformed. I confess all of my negative actions accumulated since beginningless time, and rejoice in all the virtues of all holy and ordinary beings. Please remain until cyclic existence ends, and turn the wheel of Dharma for all sentient beings. I dedicate the virtues of myself and others to the great enlightenment. However innumerable all sentient beings are, I vow to save them all. However inexhaustible my delusions are, I vow to extinguish them all. However immeasurable the Dharma teachings are, I vow to master them all. However endless the Buddha's way is, I vow to follow it completely. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Tayata Om Gate Gate Paragate Parasamgate Bodhi Soha. Tayata Om Gate Gate Paragate Parasamgate Bodhi Soha. Tayata Om Gate Gate Paragate Parasamgate Bodhi Soha. Okay, so now get yourself in a good position for meditation, if you're not already in it, and release or bring your mind to your body and release any tension that you may have in the body, starting from the bottom of the body, working way up to the shoulders, down to the ends of your fingers, and then also to your face and the rest of your head and to the top of your head. So just take a few or maybe half a minute to do this before we do the breath meditation. And now when you are ready, focus initially on the tip of your nose and follow the breath, the feeling of the breath as you breathe in and out, all the way into your lungs, and then back out your nose again. If thoughts appear or any mental activity appears, don't cling to it, don't grasp at it, don't try to forcefully push it away or deny it. Just refocus back on to your breath. And likewise, if your mind starts to become dull, you wake it up a little bit by focusing more brightly on your breath. And so let's practice like this now in silence for a few minutes. So now you can feel very pleased with yourself for engaging in this meditation practice, however short the session. Fill yourself with universal loving kindness. This loving kindness is generated in your own heart and initially extended to yourself, filling yourself with this loving kindness. So much so that it now overflows and radiates outwards, initially to your family and friends, your loved ones, and also to strangers, those people you may know a little bit or not at all. And also to those you may find unsavory, may even regard as enemies. May all of these people find happiness or be happy. May they be free from suffering and may they be peaceful. And gradually extend further and further to now also include all of the living beings around your immediate area. All the living beings that live on the earth, under the earth, in the waters, fly through the air. And gradually extend this loving kindness out further and further to now include your state, all the living beings in your state or county, and other states and counties throughout your whole country. And other countries, initially those that you're familiar with and have an affinity towards. Also those countries that maybe you don't think about or don't know about, as well as those countries you may even have, for whatever reason, an aversion towards. Have your loving kindness pervade this whole planet. And other planets throughout the whole solar system. And other solar systems throughout the whole galaxy. And other galaxies throughout the whole universe. Until your loving kindness pervades throughout infinite space. And at the same time, be present here and now, and we will recite the dedication prayer. Due to this merit, may I soon attain the enlightened state of the Buddha, so that I may be able to liberate all sentient beings from their suffering. May the precious Bodhicitta not yet born arise and grow. May that born have no decline but increase forevermore. And may the precious view of Shunyata not yet born arise and grow. May that born have no decline but increase forevermore. And so as promised, that we have a longer Dharma talk today, a little bit, than last week. And if you, once again, if you need some more detail for the meditation practice, more instruction, then have a look at last week's class that we did a bit more in that area. And right now we will continue our commentary on the 6 perfections or 6 paramitas. We're talking about the 3 different aspects for each of the 6, in other words, 18 aspects. And we went through already the generosity, we went through the morality and the patience, and we touched on the effort or diligence, enthusiastic perseverance. And so we will continue with a little bit more elaboration on that today, as well as the 3 aspects related to concentration and also to wisdom. And then after we have finished that, there's a few questions that I actually forgot to address in the last 2 weeks. And I just saw them maybe about 5 minutes before the class when I turned my sheet of paper, my little point notes sheet of paper over, and I thought, oh, hang on, I was supposed to answer those. So we'll have a look at those as well. They're very brief. The answer will be very brief. Okay, so the diligence, Remember that the practice of diligence or effort or enthusiastic perseverance, and when you think about the Eightfold Path, it's the first aspect of the three aspects that relate to the meditation practice, or the mental, you could say mental stabilization practice, training. And in this regard, it relates to the four great efforts: to recognize when you have unwholesome thoughts that have arisen in the mind and eradicate them. To recognize if you haven't got the unwholesome thoughts in your mind, protect your mind from having them arise. If you have wholesome thoughts, then keep them, nurture them, perfect them. And if you don't have the wholesome thoughts, then adopt them. So these four great efforts. But in the paramita practice, it goes further. You still practice these four great efforts to maintain the wholesome state of mind and to relinquish the unwholesome state of mind. But it goes further, because we have we call the Bodhicitta intention, the great compassion or the altruistic intention involved here. Okay, the effort to maintain as much as we can the Bodhicitta intention, as well as to better ourselves, because right now it may just be a fragmented idea, or maybe a really good idea that we're really into, but maybe we haven't perfected yet, obviously. So just remind you, the armor-like diligence means to not be discouraged, to continue with having this enthusiasm in our practice, the enthusiastic part of the diligence or the effort. Of course, the other part is the perseverance. For if we do get disheartened, we need to persevere, and then we will experience some good results from that. And then this will help us not to be discouraged and to increase our enthusiasm for the practice. This is all to allow ourselves to do this. We also, as mentioned last week, contemplate on, or bring to mind at least, the precious human life, and also that impermanence, that this precious human life is impermanent. Bring to mind the law of cause and effect, and also the unsatisfactory nature of cyclic existence. And so this will help us to continue to make the effort and be diligent in our practice, in maintaining wholesome state of mind, relinquishing unwholesome state of mind, and maintaining the bodhicitta or altruistic intention. This helps us to practice right action, as mentioned, and also it helps us also to not be satisfied in our practice if we are just doing good deeds. If we are just avoiding negative deeds, don't be satisfied in that practice. That doesn't mean be unsatisfied. Okay, what it means is that realize we've got a way to go. Realize that we're not perfect yet, obviously, like mentioned before. And so we need to continue to practice. Even if we're getting really, really good at this practice, don't be satisfied just with that. Then continue onwards. Maybe take a rest every now and then. You can have a little rest, but still practice while you're resting. But then once again, continue. It's like if you're walking, running, or riding a bicycle on a path or a beach or wherever. Now, let's say out in nature somewhere, and then you start to get a little bit tired. Then you can take a little rest. If you're on the beach, sit on a log or a rock or on the sand. Or, you can, if you're riding the bike, get off the bike, have a breather for a minute, and then you can get back up and continue your pedaling or walking or running, and get to the destination you want to get to. Okay, so of course there's no destination, is there? There's only the journey. And of course the journey, once realized, there's no journey. Okay, so I leave that with you as well. So this, you could say there's like two levels with this as well, and that is the intelligent level, which is really good, using our intelligence to do this, and but then also there's once we do this and continue to do this, it can become extraordinary practice, and the maintenance of bodhicitta becomes natural when it gets to this stage. I think that's enough for that. And now the concentration aspect has three sub-aspects, if you want to call it that. Okay, so the first one is actually related to giving up our attachment to distraction. If you think about that, we have attachment to distraction. We like to be distracted because we're used to it. Because, sometimes I think as human beings, we don't like to look in our mind and see our faults, for instance. We maybe like to know our good qualities, but you know what? You don't know all the good qualities unless you see your faults as well. We have to be brave, we have to be courageous in our practice. And stop distracting ourselves so much, especially in the beginning with anything harmful. Anything that, maybe you could be engaging in some, like watching movies on TV, maybe violent movies, or movies that make your, sense desires rise and become uncontrollable. So maybe you need to stop this physical and visual distractions, verbal distractions as well at that time. And even meaningless, even we are watching something with the intention to just entertain ourselves. Maybe it's best to watch, if you're going to watch TV or films, then watch something and change your attitude towards it. Actually learn from it. Maybe, I used to say quite often, and still maybe I can say it still, if I watch a movie with somebody, maybe I'm a pain in the butt, because actually I'm looking at the psychology behind it. What makes this type, even if it's a nasty person in the movie, then what makes a person be like that? How can they change that? Is there anything I can do to help them do that? But also because I worked in that industry for a period of time, I know how things are made. So it's like, I try to be quiet when I'm watching a film with somebody, because I know where the camera is, where the lights are, that the actors were just, probably scrambling before the scene to make sure they didn't get their lines or forget their lines, get the lines wrong. And so, actually, maybe if you do things, dissect things, from a contemplative point of view, investigate, analyze, the film is not real, it's made up, maybe telling a story that was relatively real. Maybe it's real life, based on real life or something, but actually at that moment it's not real. So don't get emotionally involved in a certain way. Or if you do, recognize there's that old habit again, but still you can enjoy the film. I'm not saying don't enjoy the film if you're watching a film, that is, but don't do it too much. Contemplation is really important to be done in silence a lot of the time, okay, without this distraction. Physically as well, from the hearing point of view, things like music can also be very distracting. As you know, I am a musician, or I live my life mainly earning my living from being a singer and musician. And when I share a personal experience, when we were recording some Buddhist CDs, and also writing the mini musicals back in 2010, and for the next maybe 5-6 years there, I remember recording in the studio into the evenings, and then I get back home and the songs, even though they were Dharma songs, stories of the Buddha's life, the songs going through my head, tried to go to sleep, it was impossible. So you can see how this, the music and the habits that we have continue onwards. At the time, all I had to do was just laugh at myself. And then actually I did a lot of rewriting and editing of the lyrics at those moments. I didn't do it later on, not later on, when I woke, then I'd write down the new edits. But I utilized that to help myself to relax. But it was interesting to note that for myself, because of the habit that I'd had in my life of writing music and performing music, that it was disturbing my mind, even when I was doing music based on really good intentions. Okay, so try your best not to be distracted. At very least, start to give up the habit of having an enjoyment, having an attachment to being distracted. What else? So the actual concentration itself is, you can have ordinary concentration. This is An example of that is maybe you're concentrating on hearing this Dharma talk now, and then working to memorize it or remember it so that you can put it into practice. But maybe not always listening. Maybe some things you're thinking, oh, I agree with that, or I don't agree with that, or that's boring, or that's exciting. So you're having this contemplation creep in. To rather than just listening, at that time. So the concentration related to listening or hearing. Also in our, from our meditation practice, quite often we have to bring ourselves back to the object. If we're utilizing the breath as the object, quite often we'll start to go off, and then have to bring our mind back to the breath, or the mind becomes dull. You have to brighten it, brighten the focus onto the breath. This is still kind of ordinary, even though we may be much better than we were yesterday and heaps better than we were last year. It's still, you could regard it as still ordinary. Okay. It's also maybe good for our practice of humility to think we are ordinary. We need to practice more, so that we don't get ahead of ourselves. Then, of course, there's discerning practice. This now, you're really knowing when the mind's become distracted, and also really knowing when the mind becomes dull, and then immediately applying the antidotes. Remember that, and I'll start to do them again recently, is reposting some of the older classes again on Facebook. And we're almost up to date, by the way, with those reposting. That's why I've slowed it down the last few weeks and just putting 1 or 2 up during the week. But I'll start to do it again. And around class 20 something, 30 something, we were talking about this concentration. Okay, so when they come up, then have a look, or review those classes related to more details of what we're talking about now. And then, of course, there is the excellent concentration of the Buddha's bodhisattvas. Okay, so that's the 3 different aspects of concentration. And now the 3 aspects of wisdom. The 6th paramita. There is the wisdom that is acquired through hearing. There is the wisdom that is acquired through contemplation. And there is the wisdom acquired through the practice of meditation or concentration, or you could say mental stabilization, mental development. So anyway, this relates to the 3 wisdom tools again, doesn't it? The wisdom tool of hearing, the wisdom tool of contemplation, and the wisdom tool of meditation and practice. So think about like you're hearing this Dharma talk right now, or maybe you're reading a book. I know that some of you have let me know the books that you're studying, the sutras that you are studying or reviewing all the time. And that's all really excellent, by the way. And so when you are really reading these scriptures or commentaries on the scriptures, then you're acquiring some sort of wisdom from studying, from hearing this Dharma talk, from hearing other Dharma talks. Hopefully sometime in the future we'll be able to do face-to-face. Of course, that's not possible at present. Maybe you can have the watch videos, either YouTube or even purchase them, and then you can acquire some wisdom from hearing them. Also looking at them as well, viewing them, because sometimes we use a lot of body language, don't we? So maybe things like mudras, hand gestures. Maybe you can actually learn something from these physical expressions as well. Okay, so that's the wisdom through hearing. Then there was a wisdom from contemplation. You hear something, you hear the teachings, you read the teachings, become aware of it somehow, and then you contemplate on it. Now, contemplation obviously is best done with silence. So there's that, going back to ridding ourselves of distraction, or the willingness to be distracted, or even the lack of being distracted. It is to actually really contemplate, use our investigative skills, our analytical skills, to be able to really get to know something. And so then we can acquire some wisdom from this. from this contemplation. And then meditation. If you're meditating on an object, absorb your mind with that object. But also you can practice what we call vipassana, which means penetrative insight meditation, which is the same, except now you are contemplating the nature of something. You can understand that this breath that we focus on in the breath meditation we did before is impermanent. With this breath gives rise to life, or helps life to be sustained. Then, of course, this is unsatisfactory, this life. We are not enlightened yet. This is unsatisfactory. Then, of course, where is the self of this breath? Where is the self? Is it the breath in or the breath out? Where is it? Constantly changing, isn't it? It's empty of self. You can understand this in every aspect of our physicality as well as our mentality. And so then you can absorb your mind with this wisdom, with this understanding. So by practicing these wisdom tools, the wisdom tool of hearing, of contemplation, of meditation, you get to develop more and more wisdom, going from inferential wisdom to begin with, then to indirect wisdom, and then to direct wisdom and experiential wisdom, the wisdom of emptiness, which makes all of the other parameters, all of our practice in maintaining and basing all of our existence and life, all of our actions based on the bodhicitta or altruistic intention, becomes perfect. So I think that'll do for that part of the commentary on the 6 parameters and the 3 different aspects of each one. And from next week, we will start to look at each one in detail, or more detail than we have, because we've actually been talking about it in reasonable detail already. There is a method to my madness, okay? I have my own ideas of teaching. I try to, of the feedback you guys give me, as well as the vibes you give me, and also the influence of my teachers and other teachers that I don't know directly yet, that I learn from all the time. I had to be a better teacher. And so there is a method to the way that I do things. If you have any other suggestions for this as well, then you just let me know. If you want more explanation on certain points, then just let me know and I will implement that for sure. And so now I'll get on to the questions. Actually, I can see a few of you on the screen there. Are you happy? Can we move on, or do you want me to explain a little bit more? Okay, we move on. All right. So the first one is, how to relax when we're engaging in either our work or studies. We've gone into this a little bit before at different times, and if you realize that you are working too hard, and this relates to our Dharma studies too. If our Dharma studies are stressing us out, you need to relax it. You need to just pull back a little bit, not too rigid. If look at it the way I am now. If I'm too rigid, this creates stress. How can we concentrate when we're like this? But if we're also like this, how can we concentrate when we're like that? Once again, not too much, not too little, not too tight, not too loose. But what's important is to recognize if we are sort of falling into any of these, or one of these extremes. So if you're working too hard, or if you're finding you're getting stressed while you are either studying or working or whatever, then relax it a bit. Pull yourself back, slow yourself down. Remember, we can only ever fully complete and fully understand one thing at a time. Like the example I've used often, if you want to get somewhere, you have to take a step at a time. Breathe a breath at a time. And as I alluded to earlier, journey. This is a journey. So often I think we stress ourselves out because we think destination. Maybe you're studying something, you want to know it now. You want to get to the destination. But actually the learning happens during the journey. Then, of course, the realization may happen very quickly, but it's because of the journey. The other extreme is the laziness. If you find yourself being, through distraction or through just being sleepy, dull, then try harder. It's quite simple. So if you start to fall into this laziness, into not studying enough, not studying with a clear enough mind, not working like this too, then you apply yourself more. And this can become, as you do this, remember this, I'm talking again, once again about the middle path. The more we practice, the more we keep ourselves on the middle path, the more it becomes natural to do so. The less you will be trying too hard, the less you will be lazy. And the Dharma path and the right effort is especially kind of help us do this, isn't it? Remember the example I give about getting up on a precipice, getting close to the top of a mountain? It's very skinny and there's a big drop on that side, big drop on that side, but the Dharma is like the fence. It helps to keep you on the path. You go too far this way, and then you move back this way again. Too far that way, move this way. Okay. The next one was talking about a take on Mara. Mara is kind of like the Buddhist, you could say, it's not like the other traditions, but the Buddhist devil in a sense. But really, the Mara, there are 4 types of Maras, okay? Yeah, there is the head Mara, the negative living being, whether you see it as a metaphor or you see it as an actual sentient being. But also know this, if you see it as a sentient being, because everything's impermanent, there's no such thing as an eternal self or eternal soul, whether it be a good one or a bad one, then Mara also can train to be enlightened, right? So then, of course, there are little Maras, devils and things like that. Of course, they are there. But more importantly, there are the Mara of our afflictions, specifically ignorance, attachment, and aversion. Then, of course, there is the Mara of the 5 skandhas, our mentality and physicality. We need to purify this, okay? I notice we're under 1 minute, so I think maybe 20 seconds to go. So practice well, and I'll see you next class, and you can contact me anytime. I rejoice in your goodness.